Hey guys, my name is Sanjiraj and welcome back to a brand new video. And in this video we're going to be just creating a React application. I just wanted to create a tutorial in order to kind of get the basics of React and how to integrate with an API, external API using React. And in this tutorial we're going to be using all the main things that you should be knowing in 2020 based on React stuff, such as React hooks, context API, and all those main stuff. And also I wanted to make the UI a little bit simple, so I use tailwind CSS, which is kind of like to give the basic styling. And also we will be using JSON placeholder to get the API, and this is going to be the sample project. So it's just like mapping out like an array of objects and rendering out in a component. So these are specific components and this is also a component. So the way it works is like, let me refresh. So you if I refresh it, you'll see a loading symbol until it loads. So we'll set the state, set the states there, and we'll also set the state while the loading is finished and the component is all ready to go. So let's get started and let's get off with coding in Visual Studio Code. So I have a normal React app. So if you're just getting started, you would start typing npx create react app, and you would just type the normal the name you want to fill your folder name with. So I've already installed, so I have the source folder, and this is how you will be greeted with in the start. What I like to do is just to delete the source folder, because this is kind of like a duplication of what I already have. So I delete it and I just create from scratch. Then a main folder first of all I want to create is called index.js. In the index.js is kind of like the main point of where all of our app and all the stuff are rendered. So I'm going to be putting import react from react, and I'm going to be importing the react DOM as well from obviously react DOM. We're going to be importing react DOM from react DOM. Also we need the CSS, which we'll be making later. And then now we want to render out the app component, which we have not yet made. So I'll just put app and close it up, and I'll put document dot get element by id, and we'll get the root, which is going to be in the index.html in the public folder, which is right here. So if I click it, this is where is it? This is where we're going to be rendering out all our components in. As you guys can see, app is not defined, so let's create app.js. So in the app.js we want to have some basic stuff just to render everything. So I'll import react from react. So basically any component you create, you have to have import react from react. Then function app, and then I'll export the app, which will enable us to import it from index.js. So I could import app from /app. So this will not show us the error, and it will render it to the browser. So that's about it for the app.js. Now for the app.js we do not have anything. Now this is just going to be the boilerplate code. This has nothing to do with the project. So basically when you're dealing with React, you have to get this started. So we'll just type hello from app, just to know that it's from the app component. And let's just open this up. So I'll open up my terminal and say npm start. It might throw up an error because we only have the source folder just starting up. We already have the app as well. So yes, I'll type yes, and it will open the React project in localhost port 3001. It would always open in 3000, but 3001 because I already have it in a React app. So as you guys can see, this is what it will look like as we are returning it from app.js. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna be using tailwind CSS as I told you guys. So first of all, let's create a navbar component. So we're gonna be using the proper folder structure that normally if you focusing on React or learning React, these are the folder structure that you would want to go with. So inside the source folder, I'm creating a folder called components. So inside this we'll have specific component stuff like navbar.js. Navbar.js. So you always want to make the first letter of your file capital, so Pascal case. So in the navbar.js, let me close that. As I told, import React from React, and then we're using functional components because it's more easier than class state components, which is class components obviously. Then I'm exporting everything. Now this is just to do with the UI of the page. We will be dealing with the context API in just a minute, but let me just get the navbar working. Wait, I'll just return a div. So this is JSX, not HTML. So it converts this into Babel code, then it turns it into HTML, which will be rendered in the index.html. So I will say this is going to be the navbar, so I'll just return navbar. Then I'll import it in app.js because this is where we're going to be rendering our navbar. So /components and navbar. So as this is going to be our core file which we are going to render to index.js, we want all of our components to be wrapped inside app.js. So when we are dealing with the context API, we want to wrap our components in the app.js as well. So here I'll just create a div because we want to have multiple components and it should be kind of wrapped in one like JSX statement. I'll say navbar. Yes, and that will make sure navbar is imported and exported for us. So now I want to install tailwind CSS. Now basically tailwind CSS installation is just a bigger process, and also React is going to be a bigger process. So I'll just show you guys how it works. So if I go to tailwindcss.com, it will give you a proper introduction on how to install it. So first of all, you need a package manager, npm or yarn. They've got like installation process for both of them, so you can just copy it. It doesn't mean like you don't have to memorize it. You could just copy it and paste it. So that's gonna install tailwind CSS for you. Until that, we'll just take a look at some of the other stuff that we're going to be using. We're going to be using tailwind CSS, and also as for the loading component, we're going to be using something called styled loaders React, which is a GitHub repository of awesome loaders. These are just so easy to implement, so I wanted to choose it and use in most of my projects, stuff like a React project as well, which I'm working on a crash course for. So like these loaders help us to kind of make stuff easier, so we could just have a state updating and we could make that happen. So now that tailwind CSS is installed, let us go to the second step. There's actually 4 to 5 steps, I think. So here we want to add tailwind to our CSS. So use a tailwind directive. So let's copy this, and as I told you, index.css is going to be the kind of the head of like rendering the app component, which is going to be the head as well. So we want to create a new file called index.css, which is going to be the head of managing all the CSS. So I'll paste that in, and we almost added tailwind to our CSS. Right after that, if you're using Sass, you have to copy and paste that. Create your tailwind config file. So you could type this, but we'll be going in a different approach. I'll copy this and create a new file, as I say, called tailwind.config.js, which is in the root folder, by the way, not in the source folder. So tailwind.config.js, I'm gonna paste that in. So this is basically where you could type custom classes in. I think, yeah, you could type custom classes in, extend it, and kind of use it in your own way if you have any different colors or stuff. So that's third step. And the fourth step is to process our CSS and to actually get the CSS classes and the styling. So they're saying us to put it in a post css.config file, which is going to be in our root. So I'll say post css.config.js, and I'll paste that in. And this is requiring tailwind.css, which means that we have to have it installed, which we have, and also auto prefixes. So let me install auto prefixer, and that's going to take some while as well. Let's go to the other step. So we have to use a CLI. So for this I chose post CSS, and also the way I learned it, the tutor and all those people used post CSS. It's a good CLI to get started with. So you gotta install post CSS and the CLI for it, which is going to enable us to run and build CSS right after we use those classes. So it's going to help us to kind of create a tailwind.css file which will contain all the classes, instead of running like a snippet of code, like to put npx tailwind css in it every time we run or start our live server. So it's installing. Okay, there's an error, but that's fine. It might have got installed. Let me check my package.json. Right here it's not installed. Should say that post css. Let me try it again. cls npm install post css CLI. Oh, okay, there was a spelling mistake. Post css. I think this might work. So every time you have any doubt that it's installed or not, you could come to the package.json and find if it's installed. So right now it's installed, so we could put the commands in order to get stuff done. So in the scripts folder, which is going to be in the package.json, I'm going to put a script called build css, which is going to build our css every time we run our script. So the script is going to be post css. We want to get whatever we have from source/index.css. We want to output it to source.tailwind.css, which it will create automatically. So I'll duplicate this, and I want to type a command to watch css, and it's just going to include a command called -w at the end. So when we start it, we want to run a command called npm run build css. We want to put two and symbols, I think. So npm run build css, and there you go, you got everything. So you could actually dump the first server, and you could start it again and see if Tailwind is actually installed. Okay, there is a problem here. Okay, source index css. Must pass a valid list of files. Okay, it's supposed to be index.css. And now if we run npm start, sorry for the thunder, guys. So it might, yeah, so it has opened up the Tailwind CSS for us. So if I click on yes, put dump our previous server, And so now, as you guys can see, the font has changed, so it means Tailwind CSS has been implemented. So we could import our Tailwind CSS in our index.js. So I'll say dot slash dot slash tailwind dot css. So if I refresh, yes, Tailwind CSS is done. So now we could work on with the actual project. I'm going to be cutting all these files which you don't need, and we'll leave the components here for a while. So let's create our navigation menu. I'll give it a class of w full. I'll make it flex, and I'll put the justify to be between. So we'll be having two elements here, which is going to be an h1 saying React API, and then that's it. Yeah, we'll be having that. And in the app.js, I want to make this kind of like in a container. So I'll say w equals 3/5, and the mx auto, which is going to horizontally or in the x-axis make it equal. So just like that. And also I want to add some padding on the y-axis, around 10 padding, just like that, and bring that a little bit down. So now we could work on the context API. So I'll create a new folder. Sorry, not in the components folder. Let me delete that. In the source folder, I want to create a new folder called context, and inside that I want to create a new file called API context. So we are using the Pascal notation there. So the way you create a context, basically what is the context API? You could access the data which is just stored in one file, which is widely used in database accessing and also API accessing integration. So if you're integrating with an API and you have all the data in one file, you could easily access this by wrapping it around the provider or the consumer in the app.js or the place where you're rendering that component. So let's get started with doing the API component. Import React from React, and first of all you want to create the context. So I'll say export the constant, which is going to be the context itself. I'll say API context. I'll name it the API context, and just to create the context you say create context, which is going to auto import it for us as well. And then you want to create a function called API context provider. Now the way I like to do it is just the name and then put provider at the last. Well, like I think most of the people do it. And then API context provider, you want to do you want to make the API call and then return anything that you want to return. So I'll take the props, which is going to be I'm going to be accessing that, and let's go to JSON placeholder and get the API. Well, we're going to be using the API where they have the posts. So they have 100 posts. So this is going to be the format we're going to be getting our posts. So the way I formatted is there's a plugin called JSON formatter. I think it's this. So you could download this from your Google Chrome store, and it will format the JSON code in a way people can understand. So I want to be getting install npm Axios as well. We're going to be using Axios. So npm install Axios. Like when it's React, you gotta you have to install all this stuff rather than it being like grabbing the CDN if you're doing it just from plain JavaScript. I think it's different, at least the way I do it. I'm not sure. So it's installed. I'll import Axios from Axios. Sorry guys if I'm like typing too fast, let me know. So I'll say Axios, and I'll say axios.get. I'll put the URL right there. I'll say .then response is going to return the response. So I'll say response, and I'll just for now console.log, just for now, the response.data. If you're using Axios, you have to wrap it around response.data, because Axios actually puts all the results in a data object. We could also catch if there's an error. So catch and put arrow function and console.log the error. So we're just console.logging, we're not doing anything with it. So we're going to be using hooks, use state hook, in order to update the data. So I'll create a hook called, just to keep it easy, I'll name it state. I'll say set state as a method in order to update the state anytime we want to. So it's going to be use state, which is going to auto import it for us as well. And then instead of console.logging, I'll create a function which actually sets the state to be the response.data. And also now we can send over the data from API context dot provider, which is going to be a tag, and we could wrap around whatever we want. So it's showing us the error because we want to return it. So we return that, and we pass in the value we want to return, and so the value we want to return and pass in is going to be the state, which is going to be the result we are going to be grabbing from the API. And what do we want to, where do we want to send it? We want to send it to the props.children. Basically what this means is the children which are going to be wrapped inside of the API context or provider, which we are exporting, and we'll import it in app.js in a minute. So if we wrap this around, let's say the navbar, now the navbar will be able to access the value by just destructuring it and then just getting the value. So that's the good thing about API context. So I'll also export this API context provider, and then now we have access to everything. But what if we have a problem? Like usually we do have a problem which we'll deal with in a minute. So we'll actually wrap this whole div in the API context provider, which is going to auto import it for us, and this is going to be the this.props.children, so we could access it from navbar. So in the components, I'll create a new component called posts.js, which is going to contain all the posts. So import react from react function posts, and I'll export default. These are just like boilerplate code, guys. There are just snippets to do this. You could get, I'm just going to be passing the posts under the navigation bar, which is going to auto import it for us as well. So we could grab the data by just specifying the name of what we passed. So the name of what we passed is the value, so you could get the value and then use that to kind of do the improve the functionality of a website. So what we could do is we could just check if there is any value, then which is going to do nothing because we want it to just be a dummy website. I'll just console.log done, and just for the part of the component, I'll just return posts. So if we check out our app, we got the posts, but if we open up our developer tools, our React developer tools, so here components, if I go to my post section, I do not have any props. That could be because API context. Okay, when I'm using the context here, we should be using it. So I could say const value will be using the use context hook. So I'll say use context, and the context we are going to using is called API context. So basically we are destructuring the value that we were passing, and then we are getting the use context hook to get the value that we passed in from the provider. So identify value has already been declared. I don't think we need this value. Now if we check our posts and our context, we have a state of all of the data that we wanted from the API. So we could just map it around, map it and create a component for each of them and then get it done. But there'll be a problem if I just try to console.log the value. If I just try to console.log the value, I'm pretty sure it would not work. Yeah, so it's saying undefined. That's because we are not using a use context hook. So I'll just uncomment it out because it's going to kind of update and call for so many APIs. So we want to wrap this around a use effect hook, which is going to only run under specific condition. So I'll copy that, use effect, run an arrow function, and right here I'll just put an empty array which is going to run it only when the state is accessed, I think. So that's gonna deal with the use effect. So if I go to post CSS, if we try to console.log, it wouldn't work. It will say undefined. That's because it takes some time to actually pass on to the post. So for that I'm going to be creating a variable a hook called loading, and set loading as the method, and use state, which is going to be, first of all we want the loading to be true. We want it to be loading, and even in the use effect we want it to be true. And when the response has actually arrived, we want the loading to be false, and when there's the error, we want the loading to be false as well, because we don't want it the loading component to be showing also if there's an error. We want just to show the error, and we will be passing the the loading state hook as well. Right here I want to get the state and also the how did I pass it? When I get the state and loading, state and the loading component. Console.log state, because we're destructuring it. So as you guys can see now, as we did put the loading functionality, now the mapping is actually working. So when we console.log, it's waiting until it's loaded. So now we could use this to actually return it. I'll create a variable called content, which is going to contain all the data. So I'll return a div with the content. So basically loading is returns a value which is true or false. So we could check if it's loading. If it's loading, we want to show a loading symbol, obviously. So I'll install what I was talking about, which was styled loaders react, which will kind of give us free to use components, which are React components, in order to actually put it in a project and like show if it's actually loading without actually trying to put custom CSS of our own. So it's almost done. Yeah, so I have this specific loader, which is a circular loader, which I showed you in the start. So I'll import circular. I'll leave a link to the GitHub repository, guys. Style loaders.react. They've got a lot of loaders. Like, actually I'll show you. Like, they've got a bar, they've got block and different kind. So this is what I'm going to be using, circular. So they've got different props as well. So I'm going to be importing circular from style loaders.react. I also want to install styled components, which is going to enable us to style the circular instead of just having a loading component. And also sometimes it would not work if it did not install the styled components, and sometimes it might not work. So yes, it's installed. So now we could render out the loading. So we could just say, if it's loading, we want to render out the circular component, which we just now installed. Some of the props that you have to pass in is the color. So I just want it to be black, and the size of it, I want it to be around 40 pixels. So now if we check, there you guys can see a slight loading symbol, which is actually showing that it's loading. So we'll say else want the content to be div with the mapping functionality that we will be putting in right now. So we'll say state.map, and which means that I actually made a video on the map functionality. So if you want, I'll leave a link to it in the description down below, but I'll just try to explain it in a easy way. So map actually takes individual results and kind of update it to the browser, so it's so easy to understand. And for now you could just put in result.data and stuff, but I'll be using a different component called post, which we have not yet made. We want a key component. We want a key component, which we are going to be using from result.id, and we are passing in the value as a prop so that we could access it as a from a different folder. So I'm going to be passing the result as the value. As you guys can see, it's not defined, so I'll create a new component inside the component folder called post.js, and import React from React, and I'll create a new function called post, and I'll export this so that we could actually access it from posts.css. So we passed in a prop called, we passed in a prop called value. So we'll destructure it and get the value. Therefore we could return it in a way that it will update it to all of the individual stuff. So we'll import it in the post.css as well. Post from /post, it's going to be in the components folder as well. So here the way we are getting our data is going to be quite different. We have body, then the title. So we'll have a div. In the h1 we'll have the value dot title. We'll just check if that works. Yeah, so all the titles are here, and right after that we want the so if you just see how the components are organized, so right here the state we have the body and the title. So now we access the title. Now let's access the body. This is a p tag, and I'll put value dot body. Basically this is how it's going to be looking like. It's not very good, so I'll style this a little bit. So I'll give a bg white, background color of white, and mb 10, margin bottom of 10, and a little bit of shadow. So it will make it look like this. So I'll give a padding of 10. Yeah, padding of 10. It will look just like this if I'm not on full screen. And let's make the heading a little bit bigger. So I'll say text around 2XL, and I'll put the font to medium. If you want, you could update the font just by going to Google Fonts, and then let's put the ID over there just next to the value.title. I'll say value.id, and just like that we are done with our project, guys. So this is as simple as it is. It's so easy to integrate with an API, and also using the stuff that was updated newly to React. It's very easy stuff like the context API and stuff. So this was a kind of simple project, guys. It took almost 40 minutes. Thank you for watching. If you did enjoy this video and want more videos like this, make sure to please leave a like. And also I'm planning to do more crash courses, so make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.